springtime in Texas with the huge Western Conference game looming in San Antonio. Let's check the starting lineups for today's game. First for the visiting Utah Jazz. Up front, we'll have, of course, Karl Malone, who is the third leading NBA scorer. Greg Ostertag, he's blocked 7 shots each to the last 2 games, and Brian Russell averages 12 points a game. John Stockton, the all-time NBA assists and steals leader, and Jeff Hornacek, who will celebrate his 36th birthday tomorrow. And Utah, coached by former All-Star player Jerry Sloan. San Antonio Spurs starting 5. Up front, the Twin Tower look with Tim Duncan. Duncan averaging 21 a game. He is among the league leaders in scoring. Robinson, the pivot man, and Sean Elliott, who has returned after 2 injury-marred seasons. Avery Johnson, the point guard, makes it all go. And Mario Elie, who came over as a free agent in the offseason to bolster the Spurs attack. And they're coached by Greg Popovich, who is also the general manager. A couple of Spurs with some nagging injuries coming into today. For more on that, let's go to Jim Gray.
All right, thank you very much, Tom. First for the Utah Jazz, Adam Keefe. He's got a bad lower back. He will play today because of the importance of the game. He said he will not play Tuesday night against the Clippers. For the Spurs, Jerome Kersey. He's got a bad right calf. It tightened up on him. He says he's available. Greg Popovich's coach said he probably will not play today. Sean Elliott, he's got a bad right quad. He will play today only because of the importance of the game. David Robinson, 44 minutes yesterday. He has a sprained right ankle. He probably will have a lot less minutes, according to Popovich, today. Popovich went on to say that he knows how important this game is, Tom, but he will not risk the health of his roster for the playoffs. Back to you.
All right, Jim, it is time to suck it up for this game, but you need to take the bigger picture as well. Tim Donahue, Dan Crawford, Greg Willard, the officials for today's game, and the Spurs control the opening tap.
Well, what will be interesting to see is the energy level of the San Antonio Spurs, having had to play so hard yesterday to get by Portland in overtime, and right away, Karl Malone with a block shot.
That's why it's so critical, Steve, for the Jazz to get off to that quick start and and take advantage of David Robinson's inability to play back-to-back games.
Stockton got a wide-open look as he made a cut along the baseline, and Utah takes the first lead of the game. Interesting matchup so far. Karl Malone matched up on Robinson and had to block that first possession, with Ostertag taking the high-scoring Tim Duncan. Johnson with the entry pass to Duncan against Ostertag. Falls away from the double team and came up short. Malone got it to Stockton.
The Jazz strategy, according to the coaching staff, come quickly on a double team against Duncan. Don't let him get into that rhythm that Steve pointed out in the last game up at Salt Lake City.
Duncan had a poor shooting game in the win over Portland yesterday. Karl Malone with a miss, but Brian Russell offensive rebound. Utah another chance.
If you're San Antonio right now, the idea is to start just getting after people and making yourself get into this game. They seem to want to work their way in. Good play by David Robinson there.
Robinson fouled by Malone. Well, Robinson gave Malone a little taste of his own medicine. Malone rejected Robinson's first shot. Now Robinson takes it away.
Now David Robinson sees that ball sitting out there and just makes a big swipe at it and a quick sprint to the other end. Still showing you, even though he's been injured, bad back, bad knees, bad ankle, this guy's still pretty quick.
It looked like Karl Malone had just given him the concession layup, and at the last minute reached in. A careless early foul for Karl Malone, something he certainly has to stay out of his foul trouble.
One thing to watch with David Robinson today is the second game of back-to-backs is often troubling for him because he does have all those nagging injuries. His production normally is not quite as efficient.
Tom, we were here last year in the playoffs, and they played back-to-back Saturday and Sunday. Game 3 and 4 between these two teams. David Robinson played like the greatest player that ever put on a uniform in Game 3. The next day was badly outplayed as the Jazz took control of the series.
Ostertag pounds it through.
You know, if Ostertag ever learns how to just catch a ball cleanly and go right up, that's going to be a great play. It always seems as though he fumbles and stumbles, but he gets his first 2.
You're not on Greg Ostertag already, are you? The guy's been perfect already this afternoon, Steve.
Here's illegal defense called against the Utah Jazz. Tag has been playing some tough D lately. Those 7 rejections in each of the last 2 games, and he is 5th in the NBA, averaging nearly 3 blocks a game.
And completely took the great Hakeem Olajuwon out of a crucial, critical game, really for both teams on Friday night in Houston.
As I recall, it was our game in Salt Lake City against Houston where Ostertag really came alive, thanks to the praise heaped upon him by Bill Walton that day.
Ostertag told me it was the negative comments of Steve Jones that inspired him to his greatest moments.
Duncan almost lost it to Stockton.
Here in the early part of the ball game, you can tell that the Spurs are not sharp against the shot clock. Tim Duncan.
Duncan with a miss, but David Robinson an offensive rebound, and then Hornacek with a reach-in foul. Jeff Hornacek committing his first foul of the game. And you're right, San Antonio doesn't look like they have a lot of energy and sort of not in sync in the half-court offense.
Tom, we were here yesterday for that great Portland-San Antonio game, and the way the referees are calling the opening moments of this game, looks like they're trying to make up for the fact that the referees didn't blow a signal whistle yesterday.
Is this the man to pose for a picture with the referee before the game? Already he's on the referees.
Yeah, they got bulletproof vest on, and certainly they're going to need him this afternoon. But Karl Malone goes out. Before he ties up Avery Johnson, gets a little piece of the arm, but I'll have a jump ball at the Spurs basket. And San Antonio is going to try to look to steal this tip. Karl Malone looking to find out where they can control attack.
Malone just waited as Avery Johnson tried to steal it and never got even close to the ball. So Utah has it with the Jazz holding a 4-1 lead.
The Jazz have made a lot of uncharacteristic turnovers in this season. They're a team that normally takes good care of the ball, and if the Spurs are going to have some success, it's going to be because they make them make mistakes with the basketball. 3 on the shot clock.
Hornacek got it away, missed it at the shot clock buzzer. Avery Johnson leads the Spurs break. Johnson all the way, got it.
The Utah Jazz very concerned with Avery Johnson, not only in the open court, but his ability to penetrate. Stockton has to do a great job of matching up and denying that little change of pace, change of direction that frees up Avery Johnson. When he's coming at you full speed, you can't just back up. You can't just give ground. John Stockton all the way back, tries to make a stab there, futile. Great screen, John Stockton.
Karl Malone and Sean Elliott all alone for the rebound. 1-point game. Spurs looking for their first lead.
Now the guy they want to get rolling is 21, Tim Duncan. They want to get him involved in the offense, particularly early. And he's a guy that can create so many different things. Nice left hand, won't stay.
He tapped it in though. Duncan kept after it, and on the 3rd try got it down. Spurs on top.
It was that possession that Greg Ostertag and Karl Malone looked like the ones who were fatigued and frozen in time, as Tim Duncan, the multiple jumps.
Those young legs. Malone's fall away, no good. Duncan the rebound. Already 2 boards for Tim. Avery Johnson finds Elliott. And Malone gathers it in. 3 boards for Karl.
I think for both of these teams, early offense is really critical for building the lead and hanging on to one. They're both pretty good defensively. If you get in a grind-out situation, Utah has an advantage. But San Antonio is going to rely on the big guys to shut down the middle. That's Duncan and Robinson.
Stockton a miss. Here's Elliott.
This matchup, Tom, Sean Elliott, Brian Russell could be critical today.
Robinson. And Malone with his 4th.
Both teams shooting very poorly with the stakes on the line this afternoon. If somebody gets hot early, they could take easy control of this ballgame.
Stockton drives baseline to Malone, who's missed his first 3, and a foul on Duncan.
Fans here want to travel. Karl Malone was going to pull the trigger on that jumper and decided not to, and got Tim Duncan off balance for the foul.
And let's check in with Jim Gray.
All right, thanks, Tom. Well, on the bulletin board for the Utah Jazz, Jerry Sloan said there are 2 keys to the game. All 5 of you must rebound, and we want early confrontations in the lane, like right here.
Ostertag missing that confrontation, and Duncan out on the dribble.
David Robinson is playing fabulous defense. He's been denying Karl Malone early. That time rejecting Greg Ostertag.
Here's the double team from Russell. Duncan got away from it. Now right back, the entry pass to him. Double team from Russell again. Ostertag with a goaltend. Count it to Tim Duncan. That'll be Duncan's 4th point.
When you block 14 shots in your last 2 games, you think you can get everything, but it's David Robinson who's had the great defensive impact here, sending that first ball back. And then when Tim Duncan goes for the patented jump hook in the lane, Greg Ostertag, not sure what he was thinking.
Utah's gone 3.5 minutes now without a score. Russell missing that long-range shot. And Mario Elie has it for the Spurs. San Antonio again trying to push it. Utah back on defense. Into Duncan. Tried to pass it to a cutting Johnson. It's stolen by Hornacek. Karl Malone missed the layup.
Malone had to make a tough angle, and an adjustment came down limping a little bit, but you know, he doesn't like to take more than one dribble on the way to the hoop, and stretched out. Doesn't stay the crowd here. They're alive.
And we'll take a timeout with the Spurs up 3.
Finishing on the break has been a trademark for Karl Malone with great extension, but this time he stumbles, gets his feet caught up as David Robinson makes a fake at him that confuses Karl Malone. And after a great start by the Utah Jazz, after making 2 of their first 3 shots on this stumbling play here, the Jazz have now missed their last 7, and Karl Malone is of great concern to Jerry Sloan. Jerry calling for the foul. And our Jim Gray has some words from the Utah huddle. Jim?
All right, well, Mike Szymanski looked over Karl Malone. He's the trainer for the Utah Jazz. Karl cut his right hand just above his middle finger. The bleeding has stopped there as he still stares at it. But he also twisted his right ankle, told Szymanski to get away from him. He's going to continue in this game right now. Tom?
Well, he's in playoff form. We know his elbows are in playoff form. It looks like the rest of him is too. Karl, of course, has been virtually indestructible. He's missed only 6 games his entire career and hasn't missed a game to injury in 10 years.
Remember what Avery Johnson said. I'd gamble off me too. If you're going to double team off of them, Avery Johnson's going to try to look to make John Stockton and the Jazz pay. Missed on that little sweeping hook. Malone has missed 3 shots outside, going for a 4th. That one's short.
Steve, David Robinson's defense has been phenomenal here in the early going. I thought Karl Malone would be huge from the opening tap.
Elie for 3. Mario Elie, who earlier hit that 3-pointer to beat his old team Houston, and mugged at the camera going back up court saying, "You never should have let me go."
I can't believe Houston did let him go. What did he do wrong? He only won 2 championships with him.
Robinson stepped into the passing lane for the steal. San Antonio over the last 5 minutes has outscored Utah 9-0.
San Antonio's picked up their pace now. They got a couple of baskets, and their energy is up now, and they've got the crowd into this game. They're all active. David Robinson flexing his knee a little bit, seems to be a little bit tight, but he's going to try to stay in it as well.
Well, David played 44 minutes yesterday, Steve, in just one of the most physical games you'll ever see in the history of the NBA. He looks like he has really brought it all this afternoon.
How big is that history book of yours in the NBA?
Large, voluminous.
Sean Elliott is fouled as he takes it to the rim. Brian Russell.
And when I get short, Steve, I just click on NBA.com and more just flows right onto my hard drive there.
Avery Johnson out. Antonio Daniels in.
I'll let you read this next promo about logging on here. It concerns the WNBA, which is just around the corner, and you can log on to WNBA.com this Tuesday to find out if Shamiqua Holtzclaw will be the #1 pick in the '99 WNBA draft. Complete coverage of the draft with live video and audio exclusively online. WNBA.com Tuesday, 11 a.m. Eastern.
Hey, Tom, if she isn't, it'll be the biggest joke in the history of the WNBA.
I think you can bank on it. As you see the other scores today, down in the final days of this regular season, Karl Malone finally hits on his 6th attempt. 1 for 6, Malone.
Tom, Greg Popovich told us before the game that he really wants David Robinson to make Karl put the ball on the floor and drive it to his left. He gets that stand-up rhythm. He's virtually unstoppable.
Speaking of rhythm, Steve Kerr into the game and promptly pumps in the shot. Steve Kerr, who did not play in the game against Portland yesterday, with an early bucket here.
He's been missing since they signed him. They thought he'd be a guy to provide him with some outside offense. That was one of their weaknesses a year ago, stuffed by Tim Duncan.
Duncan with a block. Here's Antonio Daniels, who's replaced Avery Johnson. David Robinson short on that attempt. Elliott, nobody blocked him off.
Brian Russell has done virtually nothing for Jerry Sloan's Jazz this afternoon.
Isley nearly had the steal. San Antonio retains.
Are we calling it a game? We got about 39 minutes for Russell to get into this game.
Steve Kerr for three. And Malone says enough of that. He wades in to get the rebound. 5 for him.
The Jazz and the Spurs are the two best teams that play in the full 48 minutes of an NBA game, Steve. Brian Russell, he must think he's still at Long Beach State.
Russell's 0 for 1, does have a rebound.
Already.
Here's Russell. Tough, bad looking shot. That's the worst shot of the day he's taken, and it went in. His first one, he said, take that, redhead. Daniels backing against Isley. The two backup point guards matched up. Here's David Robinson, low block now against Karl Malone. Elliott.
More than anybody else on San Antonio's team, if they're really to be successful in winning the West and coming out of the West, Sean Elliott has got to play to his former All-Star credentials. This is a guy that's been injured the last couple of seasons. They need that third score.
Up pass by Isley.
And Hornacek, after his defender Steve Kerr fell down, gets his first field goal of the game. Robinson. Here's Elliott posting Russell. Double team comes, shoots anyway. Karl Malone has been a terror on the boards. His shot has been a long time coming, but he already has a half dozen rebounds.
The Jazz are starting to get into their defensive rhythm. They're positioning Karl Malone, that weak side. Great pass.
Duncan deflected it, though.
Remember those hands I talked about.
Where would you like it next time, Mr. Ostertag?
How quickly he can turn. Duncan facing Malone. Karl knocked it away and saves it to Russell. Brilliant defensive move by Karl Malone.
Now, Malone's always had quick hands, and David Robinson can attest to that. He's been tortured by those quick hands, but Duncan's going to have to get ready.
Isley to Malone. Pick and roll. Blocked by Duncan, but a foul. Tim Duncan called for number 2 with 1:29 left in the opening quarter, and the Spurs up 5.
With the MVP on the line today, Karl Malone starting to work his way in. Early jumpers were bricking with David Robinson. Extended defense denying the good look. Then Karl couldn't extend enough to finish on the break. Finally, though, the jumper starts to fall. The rebounds have been there, and now he earns a trip to the line. Karl Malone, one of the great leaders in today's NBA. 1 for 6 shooting early on, 6 rebounds, 2 free throws here. Karl Malone's one of those guys who's given so much to this game, his whole life, his body. But after every game, he also gives his wristbands. He wears special wristbands that say Mailman 32. And as he's walking off the court each and every game, he takes those wristbands off and he finds some young child who attended the game and he tosses them right to him. Then he goes in the locker room, and every game, Karl Malone wears a brand new pair of shoes. And after the game, he takes those shoes off, signs them, and he gives them away, either to an underprivileged and needy child or to a much appreciative charity. Karl Malone representing everything it is to be an NBA superstar.
And you asked him how he visualized maybe holding a championship trophy, what he's, of course, never done. And he said he doesn't know how he would react, but he'd like a chance to try it. And if they should ever win one, he said, I don't care who wants it, it's going to my house. At least for a while, it's going to my house.
Where it belongs. And then right from Karl's house, we should go down the street to John Stockton's house for as long as he wants it.
Now they got some substitutes in. Malik Rose, who plays well against them in the ball game, replacing Tim Duncan.
Antonio Daniels got a screen from Robinson. Took it up. Tap no good by Rose. Out of bounds to Utah. Now they're going to confer.
All of the Jazz want the ball, but it looks like the San Antonio Spurs are going to get the ball as Daniels takes a quick jumper. This ball is bouncing around underneath. First tap by Rose, and then it goes off the arm and the leg of the Utah Jazz players.
Thurl Bailey right there, and the presence of Malik Rose felt immediately. Look for him to have a huge impact on this afternoon's game if he gets the minutes.
Daniels fouled by Bailey.
You know, there was only one Dr. J, but there are a lot of clones. And this is one of Dr. J's that would not have been slapped back, but Antonio Daniels goes with one hand too early. Thurl Bailey gets a piece of him.
But this is a terrific player, Antonio Daniels. Vancouver just gave up on him last year after 1 year. The fourth player chosen in the draft out of Bowling Green, after having grown up in Columbus, Ohio, where his mom was a cheerleader when she was in college, and his dad was a long-time Harlem Globetrotter.
And he wears number 33 in honor of his late brother Chris, who died in 1996. Chris played at Dayton, and Antonio also has a couple of tattoos in honor of his brother.
And Chris died unexpectedly from a heart attack while he was a basketball player at Dayton.
Isley knocked it away after Daniels had made the steal. Utah gets it right back. Isley spotted for the three. Howard Isley with a three-pointer, his first basket of the game. Cuts the lead to 2.
Tom, that's a great sign for Utah. Isley erratic from the shooting part of the game. 6 for 7 Thursday night against Golden State in Salt Lake City. 1 for 5 against Houston. He's been all over the block with his shot.
Well, one of the reasons that Vancouver gave up on Antonio Daniels, they thought he was going to be able to run it to him. You'll find out that when he's out on the floor, he's still struggling and learning that. Sean Elliott with 2 hands can't finish. They're going to get a foul.
Karl Malone, number 2.
And the fans in San Antonio applaud that, recognize the significance. Karl rarely goes for blocks. Good call by the officials, and now everything starts to change for Utah as Karl with 2 early fouls and the responsibility of having to guard David Robinson.
It comes with 6.5 seconds left in the first quarter. As you see the numbers on Elliott, who had those 2 seasons where he missed nearly the entire season. Tonight, NBC presenting one of the most spectacular miniseries ever made. An Academy Award-winning cast, incredible special effects, and a boat full of animals. The epic event of May, Noah's Ark, tonight at 9, 8 Central on NBC. Don't miss the boat. Final seconds, first quarter. Nice catch by Bailey, and he put it home.
What happened to San Antonio's defense? A complete breakdown.
So Utah with a 9-3 run to end the first quarter. It ends with the Spurs clinging to a 1-point lead, 18-17. Karl Malone had a slow start, but he's equaled Duncan's point outburst so far. It is San Antonio 18, Utah 17 at the end of one. You're watching the NBA on NBC.
Welcome back to San Antonio as we get ready for the second quarter. I'm Jim Gray. Well, this play right here at the end of the quarter. Nice pass from Howard Isley to Thurl Bailey. He puts it in. Jerry Sloan very happy about it. Greg Popovich on the other end very unhappy. He told his team, you guys got to pay attention to detail. You guys must get back in transition. They are going to do that 4 or 5 times a game. That translates to 10 points. That's the difference. They pay attention to details. If we don't, we're going to lose. Tom?
All right, San Antonio also needs to find its shooting eye. The Spurs in that first quarter connecting on only 6 of 18 shots. That's 33% shooting. Utah was 7 of 17, 41%. San Antonio has out-rebounded Utah 13-9, 4 turnovers apiece. The big difference, San Antonio has hit 5 of 8 at the line. Utah's had only 2 attempts, hit them both. Rose nearly had the steal, but stepped out of bounds.
Malik Rose again making his presence felt. The energy that he brings in a normally placid front line with Duncan, Robinson, Will Perdue. Not a lot of guys that show that emotion, but Malik Rose, he brings it all.
Yeah, but how about those guys show a lot of talent?
Well, that helps too.
You forget all the emotion.
Talent is important, Steve. I will admit that. But you got to have chemistry. You got to have intensity. It's the little things that Jim Gray just pointed out.
See the Los Angeles Lakers. Isley with Foster, Bailey, Russell. And a miss taken by Malik Rose. It's Rose, Purdue, Ellie, Daniels, and Kerr for San Antonio.
This team that the Spurs has out on the floor has to have execution. This is a scary offensive group. Purdue, Rose, Ellie, Daniels, they all have to help each other. If they don't, we keep going to one of those extended droughts. 3 on the shot clock.
Offensive foul, Malik Rose, just hammering, leveling Brian Russell. I think Greg Popovich can live with that, though. He wants a physical presence out of Malik Rose. That'll change the atmosphere. That'll get this crowd going.
Isley being guarded by Steve Kerr. Shandon Anderson sets a screen. Isley took it all the way.
But the bottom line is you got to be able to score. You can have all the physical confrontations. You can have all the emotion. But if you're not scoring, you look up at that scoreboard, your whole attitude changes.
Utah back up by 1. Double teams. Daniels got it to Rose and Kerr. Here's Will Purdue. Daniels for 3. Foster is fouled. That's a loose ball foul.
Malik Rose.
He's playing a different game and the referees are watching.
Well, Popovich knows you can only take so much of hoping that everything will go right. And Malik Rose has had a bad 2 minutes of play. He comes out of the ball game. Tim Duncan, an anchor, is going to come in at the offensive end. Avery Johnson rejoins the fray, and then Antonio Daniels goes down.
How could you say he's playing bad? He was in on every single ball. He was on the deck each time. Yelled at the refs virtually on every whistle. What more could you ask for from the guy?
Anderson chases down the ball for Utah as the Jazz up 1. Shot clock at 4. Lob it to Bailey and 1. Shandon Anderson with a good lob pass, and Bailey with a chance for a 3-point play.
When Jim Gray was telling the story about the Jazz opponents taking care of the detail and denying those transition plays, Jerry Sloan very happy with the contributions of Thurl Bailey right now. Greg Popovich was also talking about denying those lob passes, not letting Karl Malone pin you when he posts up and he gets fronted. Thurl Bailey, though, has been the nice recipient of 2 beautiful lobs.
22-18 Utah.
Now they know that they have to get some firepower. That's why Tim Duncan is back out on the floor, can make some things happen. Ellie looking for 3.
Had a toe on the line. It would have been a 2. He missed it anyway. And Isley in a hurry for Utah. Utah bench with a big advantage over their San Antonio counterparts, leading to that 4-point edge. Here's a steal, Avery Johnson. Numbers for San Antonio. Mario Ellie.
Your offensive foul against Ellie.
Well, San Antonio mishandled that break. They've had a drought here recently. They're down 22-18. Not far from the fabled Alamo, the Alamo Dome, where the Twin Towers held forth in the first quarter.
Doing absolutely marvelous jobs in lots of different areas. David Robinson, who's yet to score from the field, making his presence felt defensively, and then Tim Duncan, relentless pursuit on the offensive glass. But Robinson, who does have trouble admittedly playing in the second game of back-to-backs, he's really made some solid contributions. The intangibles are there, but the numbers, the statistics, not there to back it up, Tom.
Here's a number for you boys, 5-18. That's how long it's been since San Antonio scored a bucket. And so you can have all the emotion and all the intangibles, but if you don't get on that scoreboard, you'll go home head down.
Spoken like a true gunner.
Duncan turns on Bailey. Tim Duncan breaks the scoring drought with his 6th point. This is the 11th time this season that San Antonio has had back-to-back games, and in that second half of the back-to-backs, there are only 6 and 5 coming in. Shandon Anderson floats one over Steve Kerr.
That's a bad matchup for Steve Kerr. Anderson's a bigger, stronger guy. He can go up and get a shot anytime he wants.
That's why Steve Kerr didn't play in the Portland game yesterday. There was just nobody that he could match up with. Often helps in matchup situations when you bring guys like Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, and Dennis Rodman into the game with you.
Foster with a foul of Duncan as Kerr leaves the game. Sean Elliott returns.
But this is a better mix that Popovich has got out on the floor. Elliott can score, so that means Rose can get something. Avery Johnson will sneak something on a break in an open court situation, and you've got Duncan and Mariota will live off of that.
Steve, Greg Popovich has left David Robinson on the bench for a very long time. Now, granted, he played a lot. They want to keep his minutes down, but this is for all the marbles. This is for the championship.
Ellie missed twice. Loose ball. It'll be San Antonio's.
David Robinson sitting so long, Tom, he may stiffen up. I mean, he plays with a bad back and bad knees on a consistent, chronic basis, and now he's playing with a bad ankle that Jim Gray reported on to start this game.
Johnson with pick and roll to Duncan.
But they have to have a perfect finish. I think that this is not the game for them. This gets them a game closer, but they still got 3 to play. And if they can't finish strong and have everybody healthy, this one game means nothing.
You play them one at a time at this point, Steve. You win today, then you worry about Tuesday on Tuesday at Portland.
Rose missing the 2 taps. Had 2 good chances at it for San Antonio. They're down 4. Bailey, 17-footer.
Yes.
Hangs it in. What touch? Thurl Bailey was 7 off the Utah bench.
The grand old man of the Jazz is really giving Jerry Sloan a shot in the arm. And that allows Karl Malone, who has 2 personal fouls, to stay down a little bit longer. Nice move, Elliott.
Elliott blew by the defender and drew the foul as he got to the rim.
Thurl Bailey, they run that beautiful pick and roll the same way that Stockton and Malone do. Just keep running the same plays. They interchange personnel. Sean Elliott, a strong finish. Now, Sean has been playing strongly of late. He did tell us that his knees have been feeling a lot better and that basketball is fun again while the running up and down is no longer a laboring burden.
So I'm holding his wrist after that drive. And coming up Tuesday at 8 o'clock Eastern time on TNT, Philadelphia 76ers and the Charlotte Hornets. That could be a key game in that Eastern race, that wild scramble. The Sixers and the Hornets on TNT Tuesday.
Now the Hornets tied with New York in the loss column after the Knicks' embarrassing performance today in Indianapolis. Utah
has outscored San Antonio 18-6 over the last 7 minutes, and they lead it by 5. Bailey with a screen for Isley. Foster. And now Anderson gets it to Bailey for the shot. Good ball movement by the Utah Jazz and Thurl Bailey, the game's top scorer with 9 points.
How old did you say Thurl Bailey was?
38 years old. Born in Washington, D.C., Bladensburg, Maryland High School. He spent the last 4 years in Europe. It's his second stint with the Utah Jazz. That famous quote he had, he said he was away all that time. He came back and nothing had changed. Same players, same place.
And same results.
The NBA on NBC.
The Utah Jazz have always said that in order for them to win, they have to play as a team. Everybody on their team has to make a contribution, and it has happened early for Jerry Sloan.
The league's best offense, working at peak proficiency. Thurl Bailey finishing on delayed breaks. Everything happening magnificently as the Jazz have broken out to a 7-point lead, with everyone from the bench contributing.
Bailey 9, Isley with 5 points. He also had 4 assists. And with Isley at the point replacing Stockton, the Jazz outscored San Antonio 24-11. Stockton now back in the game as Isley sits on the bench.
You know, as good as Tim Duncan is, the one area that he's really got to spend some time working on all those free throws. I mean, he's a guy that's going to get fouled a lot, and if he can get to where he consistently shoots 75% and above, his numbers will really be impressive.
He's about 68% now. Screen and roll. Bailey looking for it from Stockton. Finally gets the pass. A little late, perhaps. And then as he put it on the floor, he lost it, recovered, and threw it right to Rose. 2-on-1 break. Johnson, Rose, and he missed the jam.
They got to call that hanging on the rim.
It is hanging on the rim.
That is embarrassing.
Once again.
I thought you liked emotion. He was going to bring the house down.
But I mean, make a shot, please. I mean, did you ever see Magic Johnson let the show get in the way of finishing the play.
Look at it, yeah. Watch as he goes in, instead of just taking it straight for the jam or the layup, he tries to do the reverse. And that'll drive it. You think Greg Popovich doesn't have much hair already? He can afford to lose much more.
Is he on the bench already, Malik Rose?
Yeah, David Robinson back in
a little message sent there, I believe.
Oh, that was the quick hook.
Stockton back to Foster, and Karl Malone off the bench and back in the game and an immediate bucket. He has
really,
6.
Excuse me. What really helps Karl is that he's willing to throw up some pretty wild stuff on the way to the hoop. He doesn't always insist that every shot be a perfect, classic release.
Duncan spinning by Foster, and Foster then committing the foul.
Well, there's a confrontation that Sloan was talking about. We're not going to let you peel in there free and clean. There's going to be some sort of collision. Sloan applauding the effort of Foster, who comes out of the ball game. Ostertag back in. But they got to come through Tim Duncan right now, make the defense of the Utah Jazz react to him so they can get some other people involved.
Ellie back to Duncan. Duncan takes it to the rim and lost it.
Great defensive stab by Hornacek. He might have got his hand on that ball, Tom.
See, I told you, Dr. J ruined a lot of players.
He made a lot of players, too.
Shot clock at 6.
And you know you're feeling pretty good if you're Ostertag and you're asking for a post play against David Robinson. 2 on the clock. Not going to get it.
He didn't get it away. Shot clock violation by the Utah Jazz. That makes Jerry Sloan upset.
Well, you know, Sloan's thing is make him play defense for 24 seconds, but you also got to be aware that when your 24 seconds is running out.
But Karl just forgot it. He looked over at Jerry Sloan that time and said, hey, Jerry, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. Can I still stay in the game?
Turnovers all even.
Can I keep my uniform for one more day?
Unlike Malik Rose.
No, Malik Rose was Vegas. 7 on the shot clock. Robinson.
Triple team. Got rid of it finally to Johnson for 3. And he got it.
3-second violation, Tom.
3-second violation.
David Robinson was stuck in the lane and he couldn't get rid of it. Dan Crawford, the weak side official, just saw it the whole way and blew off that play for San Antonio.
Well, what Popovich has got to take heart in, they've got a 4-point quarter going, and yet they're only down 8. So if they can continue to just live with their defensive energy, eventually they're going to start ringing the bell at the offensive end. You know, Utah can run away and hide if they get their nose out in front too far.
Stockton fouled by Ellie.
Did you say that San Antonio has 4 points this quarter?
I hate to tell you. I hate to tell you the bad news.
They're playing for the championship. They're playing to get their 2nd franchise MVP.
The bench players have outscored the starters so far, although if Stockton hits the free throws, it would be all even.
You know, Bill, this is the kind of game we need to unleash you and go in and give one of those emotional charges at halftime to tell them exactly what's on the line, because they may not seem to understand this is for the Marlins.
Stockton hit them both. And the Utah lead is 10. 4.5 to play till halftime. David Robinson very slow to react on that triple team last time.
Well,
now they do it again to Ellie, and it's blocked by Ostertag. Swarming Utah defense. Here's the break. Hornacek plays it up and in.
The quick release by Jeff Hornacek. Karl Malone running on the right wing drew the entire defense's attention. That freed up Jeff Hornacek to finish on the left.
Now, when they are swarming, you see nothing but purple people around the ball, and Ostertag with the block at the end of the play, and then it's a track meet for the Utah Jazz, and Jeff Hornacek dancing at the expense of David Robinson and the Spurs.
I was like Dr. J too there.
No. You know what it's like with Dr. J.
I know too well. Facial.
Coming up on NBC.
NBC tonight. No! From the producers of Merlin and Gulliver's Travels, the epic event of May, Noah's Ark, NBC tonight.
Another blockbuster movie on NBC.
Tom, that extension on the defensive block by Ostertag was just terrific, and the way he kept it in play, beautiful.
26-7 run by Utah. And Tim Duncan finally gets a much-needed Spur bucket.
We talked to the Jazz coaching staff about Duncan. They always talk to him about him being a footwork player, and you got to jam those feet so he doesn't get a rhythm.
Off a screen, Hornacek misses. Rebounded by Robinson. Outlet to Jackson, Jaren Jackson, who's into the game for San Antonio now. Sean Elliott, tough shot. He's fouled. Boy, you go inside in the lane area, and you can expect to be surrounded by purple shirts.
What the San Antonio Spurs are trying to get now, some early offense where they're not fighting the defense quite as much, and they got it with the quick hit. And
Ostertag committing his first foul as Sean Elliott hits the free throw.
Sean Elliott had been playing the weekend under the watchful eyes of his college coach, who was sitting right at the end of the Jazz, surprisingly Utah Jazz bench. There's Lute Olson, the University of Arizona head coach. When I asked Sean, who did not have a strong game yesterday, if he was feeling a little bit of extra pressure with the great coach watching there, Steve Kerr, who also played for Lute Olson, he said, yeah, maybe he was pushing a little bit too hard.
Spurs trying to mount a comeback, and this big crowd urging them on with 3.5 to go. First half. Stockton gives it up. Shandon Anderson misses. Duncan has the rebound, knocked out of his hand. It'll be San Antonio ball.
Shandon Anderson missed that last jumper. Here's a guy who had the huge game at Houston on Friday night. Shandon has not been a factor really offensively of late, as the other teams have really focused in defensively.
Jackson, an open three, can't hit it. Fight for the rebound, won by David Robinson. They threw it right away. Hornacek.
Shit.
Low post. Hornacek again to Malone. Turns and fires over Duncan. Karl Malone now with 8 points.
Tom, when Karl Malone starts hitting that shot, as he did Friday night in Charles Barkley's face, right there in Duncan's face, if he starts hitting in David Robinson's face, there's nothing anybody can do about it. And that's why I think he's going to get this year's MVP, if they can hold on and win this game.
Well, they've held San Antonio to just 2 field goals that last 11.5 minutes. And San Antonio's got the gaudy defensive numbers on the season. Hornacek, nobody picked him up.
that's a lot like the Eastern Conference, when you can go 8-9 minutes without a score and still be in a ball game.
Avery Johnson. Johnson pulls the Spurs closer. It's an 8-point game.
Jeff Hornacek, a couple of golden opportunities there, just couldn't get it to fall.
Pick and roll, Stockton, Malone. How many times have you seen this? Duncan cuts him off. Stockton. Loose ball foul against Utah. Stockton and Sloan trying to hold off the on-charging Spurs. You're watching the NBA on NBC.
Hi, everybody. Hannah Storm in New York. Coming up on the Prudential Halftime Report, we'll take a look ahead to the playoffs, which begins 6 days from now. Doug Collins will join us to talk about the postseason. And we'll bring you highlights of the Knicks and Pacers from Indianapolis, a key game for both teams today. Right now, the Jazz lead the Spurs by 8 as we go back to San Antonio and rejoin Tom Hammond, Steve Jones, Bill Walton, and Jim Gray.
Thank you, Hannah. As you said, 36-28, Utah leading here. And if the playoffs were to begin today, season ends on Wednesday, of course, Utah would face Sacramento, the Lakers, Houston, that 4-5 matchup. San Antonio would meet the Phoenix Suns, and Portland against Minnesota.
Lakers have got it all back together, Tom. Watch out, they're coming.
And in the East, if the playoffs start today, it would be Miami, New York. Although Miami's struggling the last couple of games without Alonzo Mourning. Atlanta, Philly, Orlando, Detroit, as Chuck Daly would face his old team, and Indiana, Milwaukee. And Doug Collins at halftime with that playoff preview coming up on NBA Showtime. We're a minute 37 seconds away from halftime.
You know, you just left L.A., so you must know something what's happening in Los Angeles.
You were there too, Steve. If the Lakers play like they played against Portland earlier this week, they can win the whole thing.
It's a 6-point game here as Utah has seen San Antonio climb back into it. The Spurs 11 of 16 at the free throw line. Utah only 5 of 5. Karl Malone backing in on Robinson. Gave it up to Stockton. You see the shot clock at 5. Russell for 3. Came up short. Robinson clears.
Again, we're seeing that when Brian Russell doesn't shine offensively, the Jazz struggle mightily.
Duncan lost it.
Well, John Stockton was in there grabbing the arms of Tim Duncan. That's why he's looking at Greg Willard. And he's saying, you don't know a foul when you see one?
That was a foul, even if it is for the championship.
29% shooting thanks to that swarming Utah defense. They didn't shoot well yesterday in their overtime win over Portland, and Utah is really putting the defense on them first half here.
Well, if there's a difference in the San Antonio Spurs, it would be in their willingness to compete and find a way to win a game. 3 on the shot clock.
And Elliott is bailed out by a Utah foul. Took a tough shot with 1 on the 24. He'll step to the free throw line, and free throws are keeping San Antonio in striking distance.
The recent history of these two teams going head-to-head has been Brian Russell outplaying an often injured Sean Elliott. This afternoon, with everything on the line, Sean Elliott has brought as much as he can, and he has had the edge. And that's why the Spurs have a chance to get back in.
There you see 8 of 11 free throws. He's outscored Utah all by himself. Utah's gotten only 5 attempts. They have hit them all, but the free throws keeping San Antonio in it.
That's all you need, though, really, Tom, is to find someone that can get you a little bit of rhythm, keep you in the ball game, and that's what happened as Utah had stalled the crowd back in this ball game.
Malone from Stockton. Duncan, Elliott nearly tapped it in. Finally, Russell comes away and draws the foul.
And talking about a live body, that's what Russell brings to the Utah Jazz. A lot of people went up for that rebound, but he was a guy that came down with it with 2 hands, and a power attempt gets a foul. Popovich thinking, this is just not going. We're going to give him something cheap.
Steve, I think one of the things that's really helped David Robinson and the San Antonio Spurs today is the job that the Spurs have done in containing John Stockton. John Stockton has not been controlling the flow of this game the way he normally does, as the coaches make their last-minute substitutions to save fouls for their superstars.
Stockton and Malone go out as Isley and Foster come in.
But you got a team that is making the extra pass in Utah right now, and they're sometimes passing up some of those shots. Stockton has passed up a couple. Malone has passed up a couple. They end up with nothing. They get 1 of 2 from Russell on the free throw line.
Robinson with a rebound after he had picked up his second foul. Elliott down in the low post now against Russell as Johnson finds Jackson open for 3. Rebounded by Hornacek. 10 seconds to go in the first half.
Utah doubling more than they normally do. What a play.
Hornacek to Oster tag for the jam.
You got fans that know one thing about defense. You stop the ball. Got a guy sitting right next to me. You didn't stop the ball.
Elliott for 3. And that'll bring the first half to a close. The counts on the tap in. Tap in counts. Maybe that'll give San Antonio a lift. They get one right at the final buzzer, and the Spurs end the half on a 12-5 run.
You take a look at Sean Elliott going against the clock, and watch the clock's at 5 cents of a second. David Robinson right through a couple of Utah Jazz, and they give him this hoop.
The shot clock and the game clock not in the picture on that replay. What John Stockton and Jerry Sloan were arguing about is that an over-the-back call.
Well, that's not over the back. We don't know what it is.
First field goal of the game for David Robinson brings the half to a close. He has only 3 points, but the Spurs with a 12-5 run to end the first half as Utah took command in that second quarter to see San Antonio come to get back into it, chiefly at the free throw line. At the end of the first half, the Utah Jazz lead the San Antonio Spurs 39-34. We'll be joining Hannah Storm and company for the Prudential Halftime Report right after this.
This is the Prudential Halftime Report, brought to you by Prudential. Prudential, a leader in insurance, investments, real estate, and financial services. See why Prudential is today's rock-solid choice for your financial needs.
It's halftime in San Antonio with the Jazz leading the Spurs 39-34. A Utah win today would clinch home court advantage for the Jazz throughout the NBA playoffs. Hi, everybody. Hannah Storm back in New York with Isaiah Thomas and Peter Vesey. We'll hear from them shortly and also be joined in our next segment by Doug Collins. But first, New York and Indiana, who met in an important game seen earlier on NBC. A win today, and Larry Bird's Pacers would remain atop the Central Division. In the second quarter, they were up by 10. Mark Jackson out to Rick Smits, who drives the lane, caps an 8-0 Pacers run. They led by 14 at halftime. Third quarter, the Pacers pour it on. Chris Mullin nails the second of back-to-back threes. He finished with 20 points. Indiana by 22. The final, the Pacers win at 94-71. Despite just 6 points from Reggie Miller. So the Knicks' slim lead on that 8th playoff spot over Charlotte down to just a half a game. Now here's what it looks like atop the Eastern Conference, a virtual three-way tie between Miami, Indiana, and Orlando. Miami is home tonight for Charlotte. They're home Tuesday against Atlanta. They finish Wednesday night at the Knicks. The Pacers, meanwhile, finish Tuesday night at home against Cleveland. Orlando also just has one more game. They close out Wednesday in Chicago. If all three teams finish with the same record, Miami would own the tiebreaker. What a wild race. And it was just a few days ago that Larry Bird and the Pacers, who at one point did want the best record in the league, had lowered their sights to simply winning the Central Division title and holding off Atlanta. Well, here they are now with the chance to have the best record in the East once again.
Yeah, Hannah, now that they've won the Central Division, they appear to be playing much better and they're a lot more confident in themselves. However, I look at the Indiana Pacers right now and I say, have they put enough distance between themselves and the rest of the league? Particularly in the East, there are 7 other teams that right now believe that they can beat the Pacers. The regular season was supposed to be about domination, about extending your will against other teams. Right now, Indiana hasn't done that. And going into the playoffs, other teams believe that they can beat them.
Believing it is one thing, Isaiah. Doing it is another. And now that the Pacers have their roles and their rosters and their everything else rearranged, I think everything's fine. They got McKee back. He missed 37 games. He's back the last 12. They got Best. I think he's more comfortable in the secondary role behind Mark Jackson. And finally, somebody's explained to Larry Bird how to play his team.
And we should also explain this, and the playoff picture is quite complicated, but should Indiana and Atlanta tie, it is quite confusing, but should they tie with the best record, Atlanta does own the tiebreaker. So actually for Indiana to win the Central Division, they do have to win it outright. So we need to clarify that. Got it? Okay. One other game in progress right now. It's an important one for the Lakers and the Sonics. This one's pretty simple. Paul Westphal's team trails the Kings by 1 game for the 8th playoff spot in the West. In the first quarter, the Lakers' Shaquille O'Neal backs in Jelani McCoy and hits the short hook. Lakers up 13-8. Shaq had 12 after 1. In the second quarter, Gary Payton with the steal off the Derek Fisher pass. Payton takes it in for the layup. Sonics up by 1. Seattle leads it right now at the half, 44-40. Payton has 14 points, 4 assists. Shaq, a big game already, 21 points and 8 rebounds. And when we return, Doug Collins will join us as we look ahead to the playoffs, which begin just 6 days from now. First, a message from Prudential and a word from the NBA. The playoffs get underway next Saturday here on NBC with a triple header starting with showtime at noon Eastern. Here are the current matchups in the East. New York and Miami, that's about as interesting as a 1-8 matchup gets. Indiana or Atlanta and Philadelphia, Orlando and Detroit, and then Indiana and Milwaukee. Now keep in mind these matchups are very fluid, likely to change several times before the season ends on Wednesday night. As we now bring in Doug Collins from Indiana, where he called the Knicks and the Pacers earlier. They're so tightly bunched, 6.5 games separate the first team from the 8th place team in the East. How do you see it playing out in the playoffs, Doug?
Well, Hannah, I think it's going to be wide open in that Eastern Conference, and Indiana is playing much better right now. There's no question about that, but I think that Isaiah made a great point. There's no team that fears Indiana right now, even though they are playing well. And 5 through 8, you've got some interesting teams there, some explosive teams that can shoot the ball well, that in a 5-game series could spring a couple upsets. So
who do you see as possibly a surprise team then in the East?
Well, I think when you look at Philadelphia, they've got a lot of weapons. Allen Iverson can throw up big numbers. You've got Theo Ratliff and Matt Geiger defensively inside that can cause problems. I think you take a Detroit with a Grant Hill creating opportunities that if Detroit's shooting the three well, Lindsey Hunter, Joe Dumars, Judd Bushler, they've shown they can beat anybody in the East.
Sure, Doug. You've got that connection and affection to Philadelphia and Detroit. But I'm going to jump over to Atlanta. Steve Smith. When are we going to discover him? And is he enough to take the Hawks anywhere worthwhile?
Well, you know, to me, the Atlanta Hawks, they had a great opportunity the other night to seize the lead in the Central Division, and they let it slip through their hands. And that's sort of been the story of the Atlanta Hawks. It's they build you up, and then at the last minute, they just don't fulfill the opportunity to get that win. And the other night, Mookie and Steve Smith, I think 16 for 46 in a big game. But there's no question these two guys, big-time shooters, can break open a game. And then you got Mutombo back there defensively. So Atlanta does have the weapons. They just have to put it all together on a consistent basis.
Doug, I think Milwaukee is very intriguing right now with Sam Cassell coming back. You have Ray Allen at the shooting guard. You have Glenn Robinson at the three. A lot of scoring on the perimeter. Defensively, they're solid inside. I think whoever gets Milwaukee in that 2-7 matchup is going to be difficult to beat them because they can really score some points and they can rebound the basketball.
And certainly that number 2 spot still in question. Meanwhile, in the West, here are the current brackets: Utah and Sacramento, the Lakers and the Rockets. That's pretty much the only playoff matchup that appears to be set right now. Phoenix would open at San Antonio. Portland would host Minnesota. Right now, in the game that you're watching, the Jazz lead the Spurs by 5. Doug, what are your impressions from the first half as you look at two of the powers in the Western Conference?
Both very good defensive teams in different ways. You've got the shot blocking of San Antonio, the great position defense, and the team defense of Utah. And what it shows me also, too, is now this is twice in the last probably 3 or 4 weeks that these two teams have played. San Antonio takes away the post game of Karl Malone. Those two big guys, the shot blockers, they force him out on the floor and force him to make jump shots. Thurl Bailey's been big here with 9 first-half points. And on the other end, Utah is a very underrated defensive team. But when it gets back to it, we've talked about it, San Antonio, their perimeter players must make jump shots, and they haven't done that today.
Doug, I know that now that you're stationed out in Phoenix full-time, you're like Jason Kidd is the MVP, Cliff Robinson is Defensive Player of the Year. But should we take the Suns seriously? They seem to be really coming together at this point.
I think so, Peter. You know, Jason Kidd has been tremendous, and this guy's got a tremendous amount of energy. He creates shot opportunities for his teammates, and if they're shooting the basketball well, Rex Chapman is sort of their wild card, but Cliff Robinson, Danny Manning, Gugliotta, all these guys with the capability of scoring, they could be very difficult in an early round matchup, especially if they face San Antonio. They've caused them problems this year.
Doug, I look at the 1-8 matchup right now, possibly with Utah and Sacramento. And I look at Sacramento giving Utah a lot of problems. They gave them 3 overtime games this year. And you look at the matchup with Weber against Malone, Divac against Ostertag, Williams against Stockton, really presents some problems for Utah.
Well, you know, Isaiah, I think this team's played 3 times, and I think all games have been in overtime. They've been very, very close games, and Sacramento is a team that can put points on the board. And, you know, how often do we talk, Isaiah, that a team that can score is dangerous? That's why I think if a Charlotte gets in, they're dangerous because they can score, and Sacramento is a freewheeling team. They play loose, they fire threes, and I don't think the pressure would faze them because I think they would have everything to gain and nothing to lose.
And, Doug, once again, we've forgotten the Blazers, but that's all right, just because I picked them. Don't worry about it.
All right, Peter, we'll make sure that you constantly remind us. The Jazz lead the Spurs by 5. We'll send you back to San Antonio for the second half after these messages from your local station.
This has been the Prudential Halftime Report, brought to you by Prudential. Prudential, a leader in insurance, investments, real estate, and financial services. See why Prudential is today's rock-solid choice for your financial needs.
Halftime at the Alamo Dome, the final home game of the regular season for the San Antonio Spurs, and they trail the Utah Jazz 39-34. And welcome back to San Antonio. And Bill Walton, the outstanding feature of that first half, as far as I'm concerned, has been the Utah defense holding San Antonio to 29% shooting.
In light of the fact that it's San Antonio that over the last 2 years has set the record and drawn the raves about their defense, today the Jazz come in and completely shut them down. What they've done, they focused in on Robinson and Duncan, and they're letting Sean Elliott beat them right now. Elliott, their leading scorer with 11 points, Steve.
Well, you got to take heart in that you're only 5 down. As bad as you shot the ball, you're only 5 down. That means you're in the ball game. You got your 35,000 fans here looking for a big second half.
Shooting the ball, though, the Spurs are 29%. Ouch, that won't get it done.
And some other first half trends. The Utah Jazz bench paying big dividends with 16 points on 7 of 11 shooting. San Antonio got only 4 points off the bench, and as Bill mentioned, Sean Elliott with 11 points is the leading scorer. Karl Malone finally found the shooting range, but that MVP possible matchup of Malone and Duncan really hasn't materialized yet. Utah Jazz with a 39-34 lead. Third quarter coming up when we return. Welcome back to San Antonio, where a few moments ago Jim Gray spoke with Greg Popovich, coach of the Spurs.
Outside the Spurs locker room with Greg Popovich. Greg, your team shoots 29% in the first half. Do you feel fortunate to still be in this game?
Well, you bet. You're not going to win a whole lot of games shooting 29%, that's for sure.
Where do you plan to get some offense here in the second half?
Well, you keep shooting. You don't stop shooting. It's the only way you can score is to shoot the basketball, and hopefully we'll get a better rate of success on that. But I think transition defense has also hurt us.
All right, Greg, good luck in the second half.
Thank you very much.
Back out to you, Tom.
All right, Jim, ready to go in the third quarter. Utah possession.
We took a look at the first half leaders, but Bill, I want you to hear that from a coach that believes in defense. You got to keep shooting.
Never mistake activity for achievement. When you have 9 turnovers that lead to 13 points like the San Antonio Spurs did, it's very tough to win in an incredibly low-scoring ballgame.
In fact, each team went through a long dry spell in the first half. Utah 6 minutes in the first quarter without a field goal, and then as Malone puts one through, then San Antonio late in the first quarter, middle of the second with 11 minutes with only 1 field goal. So it's weathering the dry spells that could spell the difference in this game.
Well, I think if you're the San Antonio Spurs, you got to come back through Tim Duncan. You got to find a way to get him some rhythm, get him going, even if that means he takes 30 shots in this ball game, and then let David Robinson fill in the other place. They've got to have those 2 guys scoring big, or they're not going to get this game.
Duncan missed his first shot of the second half, and Malone hauled down his 9th rebound.
Malone clearing out some space. They're going to try to start coming to Karl Malone against David Robinson.
Robinson is just throwing Karl Malone out of the way.
Challenged the shot by Malone, and it was an air ball as the shot clock expired. Here comes San Antonio with Elliott. Johnson lobs to David Robinson, fouled by Hornacek.
They saw him too late.
But Steve, Karl Malone didn't even run back on defense that time. He was so exasperated with the officiating. Karl Malone just getting pushed, shoved.
Well, that's supposed to be hand check.
Yeah, hand in the back is supposed to be illegal. You have to use your forearm. Duncan whips it to Elliott. Baseline drive and a Utah foul.
One thing, Sloan is saying we want confrontations, but we also don't want to waste fouls. And Ostertag only had to move himself 1 more foot. He would have closed off the lane. Sean Elliott wouldn't have gotten a chance to go to the free throw line. This guy can block shots. You'll need him later against Duncan or Robinson.
Look what Elliott has done at the free throw line. 9 of 12. The 13th rims out.
Brian Russell really has not kept Sean Elliott under control whatsoever. Elliott has got 11 points, 4 rebounds, and an assist, while Brian Russell 3 points, 2 rebounds, and no assists. Brian Russell 1 for 3 shooting.
Last time these 2 teams played in Salt Lake City, San Antonio won 83-69, holding the Jazz to 69 today. It's San Antonio that's in danger of having a low scoring output. See the other games. Russell driving on Elliott.
Going to be a tough finish with David Robinson standing in there, and that's what happened. That ball was short.
Ellie takes the ball away from the defense with the left hand and makes the layup. He has 5, and it's a 4-point Utah lead.
Mario Ellie, who's brought so much heart, so much fire, trying to get this team untracked. What a pass, Hornacek.
Karl Malone able to rub off Tim Duncan with a screen. Avery Johnson was in there looking for cover as Karl put it through. He has 12. Ellie pulls up on Hornacek, and he'll shoot 2. Jeff Hornacek committing the foul.
Get Mario Ellie in transition, and he's very good at bringing the ball to the basket. I mean, this guy's going to score in 2 areas. Either as we take a look at Karl Malone with the quick cut inside against David Robinson, but Ellie's going to either score from the 3-point line or right at the rim. He gets fouled by Hornacek. He'll have a chance for couple of free throws.
When I was talking with Mario before the game this afternoon, he was saying that how difficult it is for him to guard Jeff Hornacek, because Hornacek is not one of the players like so many of the modern stars in the game who work with their own dribble to create their shots. And Hornacek's quick release, who Mario Elie rated right up there with Glenn Rice, Reggie Miller, and Del Curry, makes it extremely difficult to play any kind of effective defense.
Hornacek picking up his third foul on that last San Antonio possession as he takes Avery Johnson down low. Johnson commits the foul for Avery. AJ's first foul.
Utah's pinpoint precision passing not really been affected whatsoever by the pressure defense of San Antonio. Either David Robinson on Karl Malone or Mario Elie on Jeff Hornacek.
Hornacek cutting to the basket, missed the layup. Then the ball batted right back out of bounds. It'll go to Utah.
Well, Jeff Hornacek wanted to touch it, but he's the last guy that shot it, so he let it roll out of bounds because that had shot written all over it, and they'll get a new 24.
Tag with the screen for Stockton. Stockton looking for someone, finds Hornacek. And he hit the layup. Nifty move by Hornacek from John Stockton, who had the penetration.
Under David Robinson.
Steve, do you think Jeff Hornacek can dunk?
No, but still, a dunk only counts 2 points. I mean, this is the guy that understands get the ball in the basket any way you can get it in. A lot of shots that seem tough are routine for him. Tim Duncan.
Fouled by Ostertag. Maybe Malik Rose can give a few dunking lessons.
Are there any other off guards in the league that you think cannot dunk? I can't think of any offhand. Not that I am overly impressed with the dunk, because as far as I'm concerned, the dunk requires the least amount of skill of anything in the game of basketball.
Third on Ostertag sends Tim Duncan to the line, the only player in the NBA to rank in the top 10 in those categories.
Shaq has dropped out.
Tonight, stick with NBC for the world's most dangerous magic at 7, 6 Central, followed by Dateline, and at 9, 8 Central, the epic event of May, Noah's Ark. It's all tonight on NBC.
So what do you call Steve Kerr?
I call him a basketball player.
But he can't dunk.
No, he can dunk.
5-point Utah lead. Malone looking inside. David Robinson slaps it away. He stole one from him that way in the first half. Can't get that one, however, but there's only 5 to shoot. Ostertag missed it. Duncan clears.
Will somebody please finish at the basket?
Elie gets it to Elliott, looking inside for David Robinson. Lob it to him. Malone checking. Robinson to an open Avery Johnson.
Great closeout defense, Hornacek.
Avery Johnson reversed, no good. Robinson to the shoot. And a steal by Hornacek. He poked it away. And Utah has it. Malone comes to set a screen. Stockton goes the other way and finds Ostertag. Blocked. Rejected by Robinson, but a foul called, and David the Admiral not happy with that call.
You know a technical's coming this way. Popovich wanted to make sure that the official looking at him, he jumped up and down a few extra times, but this is the second time we've seen Ostertag's imagination get away from him. Because there's no way he can get there on his own. And he's going to come through David Robinson right on top of the ball.
Ooh, that's a bad call. Bordering on terrible.
That was all ball for David Robinson, a clean block. Hornacek shoots the technical, which was called on Coach Popovich.
One thing that Greg Ostertag had difficulty doing, Steve, is bending his legs to where he can get above the crowd. He's standing above him anyway at 7.
Now he can dunk.
He could have dunked right there.
I mean, you like the way that Ostertag is coming to the rim, trying to power his way in, but the reality is, if you don't have that kind of elevation and lift, you're not going to get over a guy like David Robinson. You get a fortunate call, but this is the second time today he's trying to bring home the hammer. gets 1 or 2 free throws.
He's going to have to practice the clear out with the left hand that Dr. J mastered.
Timeout San Antonio. They're going to try to regroup and get over what was a bad call. Popovich still arguing his case. Here it is again. Foul called on Robinson. The NBA on NBC. David Robinson, 26 points yesterday, and there's that back-to-back performance that we spoke of, managing only 3 so far today.
Yesterday in the second half against Portland, David Robinson was incredible. Sweeping hooks, running the floor, dunking. Today the defense has been there, and he just hasn't been able to get anything going on the offensive end.
And Jeff Hornacek has just picked up his 4th foul. He'll stride to the bench, replaced by Shandon Anderson. David Robinson, 3 points, does have 9 rebounds today.
Now this is the thing that's going to save the San Antonio Spurs. Struggling to score from the field, 7:28 to go. Penalty situation in their favor, so they can shoot free throws. That's what kept them in the first half. Could be the thing that keeps them here in the quarter.
See, another thing the Spurs really have going for them is this crowd. This crowd is incensed at this moment. They are fired up at that bogus call on David Robinson. They are fired up at Jeff Hornacek, Jerry Sloan. They are ready to storm this court.
And the Spurs again, as you mentioned, staying into the game at the free throw line, 19 of 26. Utah's attempted only 10, hitting 8.
It's a tough matchup for Mario Elie against Shandon Anderson. Anderson can post anybody. They go to him right away. He gets his first 2 in the second half.
But that's what they got Mario Elie for, Steve, is to play that defense against the tough off guards. That's why Jaren Jackson's not in the starting lineup anymore.
Ostertag called for the foul as Duncan took it to the rim. That's 4 on Ostertag.
And that's why I said Ostertag can't afford to give up cheap ones. Now, this is a legitimate play and a good block on his behalf, and he gets it taken away. His reaction, he's headed toward the bench. Greg Foster comes in. So if you got people that are goalies, that can block shots, you can't give up cheap fouls against the Sean Elliott's on baseline drives.
That was a good foul, all over the arm.
Tonight, mankind's greatest adventure will begin from Hallmark Entertainment, Noah's Ark. Experience the miracle that saved the world. Noah's Ark tonight at 9, 8 Central on NBC.
Duncan is their big hitter, and he's having trouble getting going again this afternoon. Yesterday against Portland, it was a slow afternoon. 2 free throws here. He's got 10 in the ball game.
Spurs within 6.
Very quiet afternoon for John Stockton continuing.
Anderson goes back to get it. Challenges Duncan, who blocked it. And then swiped by Russell.
And they reset the shot clock.
You know, some of these blocks, these guys lay the ball out there and into the arms, and then they're hoping that they're going to get a foul, and that was the case of one there against Shandon Anderson. Same play, Stockton shoots this time.
And goes glass as it rattles through. And a foul called on Avery Johnson, a push.
How very few players shoot the ball off the board anymore. John Stockton, just so sweet, gets a very kind roll. But when you think about guys in today's NBA that shoot off the glass, I think Jeff Hornacek, John Stockton to some extent, Reggie Miller, of course, of the Indiana Pacers, Chris Mullin, his teammate, and then the Spurs' Tim Duncan, and that's really about it, Tom.
Duncan clears the rebound on the Stockton miss of the free throw. It's 51-43. Low post Duncan. Guarded now by Foster. Double team from Russell. Elliott drives on him as he recovered. Dishes inside, and Robinson missed, but he...
They want to travel, but they're going to call a foul first. Stockton is the guy that picks up the personal foul.
But why wouldn't David just raise up and jam it through on this?
Trying to get control of the ball, and he lost his footing.
That's what happened.
He had his foot on top of John Stockton's foot, and he never really could get his legs underneath him. He'll earn a trip to the line.
So that's what happened. Had his feet tangled up on top of another player's. Stockton has picked up his 3rd foul. From deep in the heart of Texas, Tom Hammond, Bill Walton, Steve Snapper Jones, and Jim Gray. Key Western Conference game. Utah Jazz, San Antonio Spurs. Utah can clinch the best record in the NBA with a victory today. If San Antonio wins and then take their remaining 2 games, they would have the best record. And with 6 minutes left in the third quarter, visiting Utah leads San Antonio 51-45.
Only a 6-point game. Stockton trying to make another one of those kinds of plays. Has himself rejected, and they got to reset. Stockton again.
Everybody going up for the rebound, and Robinson wins the battle.
David playing through so much pain. It has to be heartbreaking for him.
He has 10 rebounds, and here he is, the trailer. Duncan spots him for the jam.
Again, when you look up at the scoreboard, you say as bad as it's been, they're only down 4.
And if David Robinson, who won the MVP 4 years ago, can help his team win this game, and Duncan, this year's MVP, how happy would that make the Admiral?
And Robinson with a defensive play, then behind the back to save it to a teammate. The Spurs have only 2 field goals in the quarter, but have come right back into it at the line, and they'll go there for 2 more shots in the form of Tim Duncan. Spurs becoming much more aggressive.
Things are starting to turn momentum-wise, and when you've got the Twin Towers delivering the interchange, the team chemistry between these 2 great giants, David Robinson finishing, denying the Jazz on the other end of the court, everything turning for San Antonio right now.
And Greg Foster has just picked up his 3rd foul. Already, Ostertag is on the Utah bench with 4.
They thought there was a timeout, but they were called back out on the floor. Duncan has a pair of free throws, trying to make it a 2-point ball game. Crowd starting to get into this. But this is a lot like yesterday when they played the Trailblazers after a poor second quarter. They found themselves down, and in the third quarter, they found some way to stay competitive, stay in the ball game, and finally get control of it before they had themselves tied in regulation by Damon Stoudemire, and then they had to win it in overtime.
Little body English then from Duncan, got the second free throw through the hoop. He's 5 of 8 at the line, 12 points in the game.
Time for Karl Malone to silence this crowd if the Utah Jazz are going to have a chance to hold on and win this game. That's what MVPs do. That's what Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, Isaiah Thomas, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar did.
Sean Elliott away from the ball, committing the San Antonio foul. Here's Isley, floater, and it stays down. Howard Isley was 7 off the Utah bench.
San Antonio is playing a different defensive wrinkle on all the different pick and rolls. They're rotating a big guy up from the baseline to harass the guard.
Johnson is fouled as he takes it to the basket. And Howard Isley, the Jazz outscored the Spurs by 13 in the 11 minutes he played in the first half.
What you have to like about Isley and Stockton is their ability to read when that shot is available. And right there, he's hanging, looking, and then decides the only place I can go is off the glass, gets it to go in. But the free throw line has been the saving grace of San Antonio. Johnson picks up a foul against Isley. So they have just been staying in this ball game, living at the line.
By living at the line, San Antonio, 33 attempts, 3 times as many as the Utah Jazz have taken. The Jazz only 11 free throw attempts. They've made 8 of them.
Jaron Jackson replacing Mario Elie as Johnson misses the second free throw. He's not a good free throw shooter, about 56%.
Avery Johnson shoots 56%.
And it's 53-50.
Must be all that time he spent practicing on his rebounding and shot blocking.
Isley. Jackson with a rebound.
Duncan's calling for it. Avery Johnson goes the other way and says, I'm going to David Robinson.
They want a pick and roll situation, and Avery Johnson trying to read it all the way. Robinson chips it in.
The Admiral nudges it through, and San Antonio is as close to Utah as they have been since early in the second quarter. It's a 1-point game.
Ostertag wasn't getting it done. Jerry Sloan has tried Greg Foster. Things slipping away for Utah.
Russell, guarded closely by Elliott. Here's the mailman, and he lays it in.
Nobody was about to step in that time.
14 points for Karl Malone in that MVP battle with Tim Duncan. He's outscored him by 1, 14-13. Elliott back to Duncan. And it'll be a blocking foul on Utah. Greg Foster has his fourth.
The centers from Utah are saying, what does it take to get a call? They have not seen anything go their way. Duncan really was out of control on that drive. He committed himself to getting to the rim that time. Greg Foster thought he was out in front of the dotted line. It doesn't go his way.
Steve, as Tim Duncan goes to the free throw line right now, a guy who's battling for the MVP right now, in just his second year, he would not be the first second-year player to have ever won the MVP. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar won it in his second year, as well as Bill Russell and Bob Pettit.
Missed the first free throw. Let's go to Jim Gray.
Well, before the game, we talked about Adam Keefe. He's got that bad lower back. He thought he would be able to play today, and then he wouldn't play Tuesday night against the Clippers. He has yet to get off the bench. He's still nursing that bad back. Apparently, he is not going to play today. But with the foul trouble to Oster tag, he also has a broken nose, but with the foul trouble to Oster tag, and now with Foster, he may have to come into the game, Bill and Snap.
Well, the third center of the day for the Jazz, Todd Fuller, comes on at 6'11", after he saw Foster and Ostertag each pick up 4 fouls. That's the one good thing about that center by committee. They've got 18 fouls to give.
And they have Thurl Bailey, who had a great second quarter, still yet to come back in. Isley off the glass short.
That ball was blocked by Duncan.
Russell picked off the Elliott pass and somehow got it over Elliott to score. Great move by Brian Russell.
San Antonio leads the NBA in block shots per game at over 7 per event. The last time these two teams played, when San Antonio won at Utah, 12 block shots, Tom.
7 by Tim Duncan. Elliott spinning, colliding, offensive foul. Sean Elliott as Karl Malone took the charge. Well, the San Antonio Spurs got within 1, but thanks to Karl Malone, who takes that charge, Utah has pushed it back to 4. It's 57-53 Jazz.
This is Hannah Storm in New York. The Lakers at Seattle, where Kobe Bryant has exploded in the third quarter. 9 of 10 for 19 points in the third. Overall, 25 points and 4 assists. Kobe single-handedly trying to help L.A. solidify home court advantage while keeping Seattle home for the playoffs. They lead it by 13. Now back to Tom at the Alamo Dome.
All right, Hannah, thank you. And there's what you're talking about. The Lakers tied with Houston in that 4-5 battle. Meanwhile, Seattle on the outside looking in and trailing the Lakers big here today.
Tom, in the Lakers game against Portland, Steve, what day was that? Thursday?
Thursday.
Thursday. The Lakers played with such intensity, such fire. Shaq was doing everything, dominating at the defensive end for the first time in a long time. And then Robert Horry, he found his game, which he left in Houston years ago.
I see where Wilt Chamberlain waded into the discussion in the L.A. papers this week. And speaking of Wilt, Malik Rose went to Wilt's high school, Overton High School in Philadelphia. He commits the foul.
And it was Wilt starting off the week, blasting everyone, including his former teammate Jerry West. Then Kareem got into the picture. And you really have to wonder about a team's character, though, when the only way they respond is when someone else challenges them in the media. You look at the Overbrook High School NBA alumni, Wilt, Mike Gale, Walt Hazzard from UCLA, of course, Hightower, Jones.
And Karl Malone from Summerfield, Louisiana High School, where there were 8 in his class, now has 16 points.
That Overbrook list did not include Andre McCarter, who was a great performer at UCLA, as well as in the international game.
San Antonio has only 3 field goals this quarter, but the free throw line has been very productive for them. Duncan way short on that one. And the rebound taken by the Jazz as Anderson gets it to Isley. Less than 2 minutes to play, third quarter.
Jerry Sloan wants to weather this quarter because the charity stripe has allowed San Antonio to get back in it. If they can get a field goal here, they're right there.
And got it, Shandon Anderson. Shandon Anderson was the man that got 2 more for the Utah Jazz as they move ahead by 8 putting away the Spurs challenge that carried them to within one. Only 3 of 7 from the field this quarter.
Popovich has got a good defensive strategy working today as a 3-second violation on Malik Rose. But unfortunately for Greg Popovich is that Jaren Jackson is now guarding Shandon Anderson. That's a very tough matchup. And then Malik Rose guarding Karl Malone.
Well, Malone goes out of the ball game. Thurl Bailey, who gave him 9 points in the ball game, but they got separation again. They got an 8-point advantage, feeling a little better about themselves as they try to close out the quarter.
They left Bailey alone. He couldn't connect.
He didn't want to shoot that ball. He had just come in from a long rest, hadn't played in the second half yet.
Avery Johnson, Rose fumbled it away. Isley comes out with it for Utah. The 5th turnover this quarter by the Spurs. Bailey. Duncan clears, outlet to Avery Johnson. He's got Rose running the court, and he's fouled hard by Isley.
Been a tough day for Malik Rose, but this is a tough guy. He bounces right up. Isley, in a sprint trying to catch up, is going to try to come in and make a play. Doesn't get any of the ball, and it's 2. It's a flagrant 1 and 2 on the side. So Rose is going to get a pair of free throws, and they're going to get possession of the ball.
But this is a very tough guy, Steve. This guy who has been through the wars and has had some unfortunate things happen to him, from the publicity about the lockout when he was involved in the Players Executive Committee.
Talking about a tough day. Here's that one from before that sent him immediately to the bench. A missed opportunity. He does make the 2 free throws, and now the Spurs will get the ball as this crowd, the biggest in the NBA this season, 35,122 at the Alamo Dome, trying to rally the San Antonio Spurs. They've gotten 28 points from the line today, 27 from the field.
This is a perfect game for Malik Rose because he can get physical, and that encourages the crowd. Nice spin move by Duncan.
Got his own and put it back. Tim Duncan now has 16. And 9 rebounds. And the lead cut to 4.
Well, that's what a mistake will do for you. Miss a couple of shots, make a mistake. Thurl Bailey trying to finish. They're going to get a foul here against Sean Elliott. But you've got to play through. Watch Duncan dancing, pirouetting his way to a miss, but right there to get the finish.
Looked like a triple axel.
Tim Duncan is that footwork type player, so rare in today's game. Doesn't really think about the power game, doesn't think about the dunks or the fancy plays. He just thinks about breaking you down the way Michael Jordan did, the way Karl Malone and John Stockton now do.
You know, when you make a list, you really make a good list. You know,
who else would you put on that list?
I just want to know, can you cook it all? I mean, when you start throwing stuff into the dish, everything gets thrown in.
I bet he makes a good stew. 63-57. Thurl Bailey, 11 points in 8 minutes off the Utah bench today. Johnson threading his way through defenders, finds an open Elliott for 3. Tapped out of bounds, San Antonio's way.
If ever there was a quarter where everything went the way of the home team, this is one of those quarters. All of the breaks, all of the calls seem to have gone advantage San Antonio, but they're still down on the scoreboard, 9.6 seconds left.
Terrible break.
Technical foul.
On Howard Isley, technical foul.
Malik Rose was knocked to the court underneath the basket before the ball was inbounded.
This could be a disastrous scenario for Jerry Sloan and the Jazz. Are they going to call also a foul on Thurl Bailey for knocking Malik Rose to the ground? Greg Willard trying to restore order here in the Alamo Dome.
And Jackson misses the free throw. He's an 84% shooter at the line, and he missed the free throw on the technical foul.
That's a flop by Malik Rose. He just crumbled to the ground at the slightest contact.
Well, Tom, that stew might not be so good.
Yeah. Got plenty of seasoning. Avery Johnson will inbound. 9.6 seconds left, third quarter. Duncan. Duncan triple team. Spins. Glass. Good.
think Thurl Bailey should be guarding Tim Duncan instead of Todd Fuller.
Isley at the horn to end the third quarter. A quarter that saw 19 fouls, including 2 technicals called. Karl Malone and David Robinson both have claimed an MVP title. They'll look to step it up in the fourth quarter for this one to be decided. At the end of 3, the Jazz lead 63-59. We'll return to San Antonio after these messages and a word from your local station. You're watching the NBA on NBC. A productive quarter at the line for San Antonio. Let them outscore Utah by 1 as we start the fourth at 63-59. And here's what we're playing for. The best record in the NBA. A Utah win today, and they clinch it. And home court throughout the playoffs. San Antonio, should they win, then will have to win their remaining 2 games at Portland and at Golden State in order to have the best record in the NBA with the regular season ending on Wednesday.
That game at Portland will be huge, regardless of the outcome of this game, because possible second-round matchup and home court advantage on the line there. Portland playing great at home, yet to win the big road games.
One of the things that double teaming does is exposes you to get in foul trouble, and it certainly hurt the Jazz. Rose on the drive.
Wild shot put home by Duncan.
What a great pass. Down the lane, saw Duncan flying from the free throw line and put it up high off the glass. Right to him.
Duncan making his bid for MVP. 20 points and 10 rebounds. He leads the NBA in double-doubles. He's got another one.
It is a 2-point ball game, and what the Utah Jazz are going to have to come back and do is take advantage of the fact that David Robinson's not in the game. Karl Malone is.
Avery Johnson. Avery Johnson has tied it at 63.
Critical for Utah to respond with the big play from Karl Malone. Offensive foul, Utah. Karl Malone.
Malone with a forearm. Here's Duncan with that
beautiful pass.
Put back.
And then when Karl Malone, Avery Johnson uses that pick beautifully by Tim Duncan. When Isley stuck behind it, Avery unwillingly had to pull the trigger. Great result, though.
And now San Antonio looks for the lead. Duncan fall away, no good. On the floor and a whistle. Loose ball foul called on Malik Rose of San Antonio. And Stockton and Hornacek return to the game for Utah as Rose has just picked up his 4th foul.
Well, Rose, they can lose, and they're going to get David Robinson back in the game. And I think when Utah missed a couple of chances with Rose and Malone out on the floor to get something inside and quick without having to worry about having the middle shut down, Popovich is going to change all of that. David Robinson back in.
Roar of approval for Malik Rose's spiritual contribution today.
Stockton cut off down low, got it to Hornacek. Pull up high, arching no good. On the rebound, kicked back outside, and the Utah Jazz hit the offensive boards in the form of Shandon Anderson. Malone cutting Anderson, couldn't handle it. Turnover.
Here at home, the San Antonio Spurs have shown the kind of resolve and resiliency that they haven't had in past years. They've found a way to get back into this ball game. Let's see if they can continue their push. 10 minutes to play.
They are 20-4 at home as Avery Johnson lulls the defense to sleep and gets the go-ahead bucket for the Spurs, their first lead since the end of the first quarter when they were up 18-17. Timeout, Utah. Avery Johnson leading the big Spurs comeback. And with 9:45 left in the game, an 8-0 run by San Antonio. And they're up by 2, the NBA on NBC. A long uphill climb for the San Antonio Spurs has carried them to a 2-point lead, 65-63. Final home regular season game for the Spurs. They have a 20-4 record at home, and they're playing before the largest crowd in the NBA this season, over 35,000. Let's check in with Jim Gray.
Well, during that timeout, Tom, Jerry Sloan really got after his team. He said, what's the matter with you guys? You're playing scared. You're playing like you're afraid to lose instead of trying to win. Use your heads now and go out there and play with some heart. Tom?
All right, Utah this quarter 0 for 2 and 2 turnovers has been their production.
12 straight home wins on the line for the San Antonio Spurs. And a delayed call by Greg Willard right in front of Jerry Sloan. Amazing how Jerry Sloan still calls with this incredibly veteran team. He still calls every single play. 10 on the shot clock.
Now 7 to shoot. Hornacek turned back for the defense, uses the screen and hits. Brilliant job is Jeff Hornacek finding a way to get the shot off and hit it. 65 all.
Well, in a game that means so much, we'll find out if Sloan was right and his team has the courage to fight through. John Stockton picks up another foul.
Stockton with a trip of Avery Johnson. That's his 4th.
Jeff Hornacek, who has a career of making these incredibly difficult shots from anywhere on the floor. But now Avery Johnson, who's definitely had the best of John Stockton today.
Duncan. Triple teamed, missed the shot, tap, no good. Duncan down with it again, and no doubt that time. .12 rebounds for Duncan as Avery Johnson fouls John Stockton.
It's interesting when we talked to Avery Johnson yesterday, as we look at Tim Duncan and the relentless pursuit of that ball. Karl Malone can't get his hands on it. And then the quickness of Tim Duncan, the MVP chant exploding, roaring through the Alamo Dome. Well, if that doesn't get him excited, I don't know what will.
Well, the poker-faced Duncan just out there doing his job. Rarely shows much emotion, but that time after that jam, he was dancing back up court. Malone backing in on David Robinson, and Robinson called for the foul.
Yeah, Duncan goes up, and you just see a big, long arm come in and fire that one down, and that's just a little bit of a celebration for Tim Duncan. He was real happy after that.
But that's what the big guys need to do. Go quickly there. You start pump faking and trying to double clutch. None of that stuff works. The quick power dunk.
David Robinson just called for his 4th foul, so Duncan takes up the defense. Ball tapped around. Who's got it? Hornacek of Utah. Nearly traveled, kept his pivot foot intact. That shot no good, and finally, after a tap by Ostertag, who commits his 5th foul, David Robinson, who had been guarding Karl Malone, picked up his 4th foul, so Duncan took up the defense. Tom, on the scramble for the rebound, a foul.
Tom, the last 2 shot attempts for Utah, Greg Ostertag has had, as Karl Malone now has 4 fouls here, but Greg Ostertag had 2 easy stickbacks. You got to put 2 hands on that ball. Either come down and go back up and jam it in, or dunk it in right away. Don't be finessing right here on the road with the season on the line.
Hornacek with a quick double team and an illegal defense called. That's the 2nd against Utah. It'll result in a technical foul. Tim Duncan and Avery Johnson have scored the last 12 San Antonio points. 8 of them by that man, Tim Duncan. And Avery Johnson, of course, hit the tying basket and the first go-ahead basket. Mario Elie sinks the technical foul shot.
This game, again, a lot like yesterday's. We take a look at the Malone-Duncan comparison. Duncan has gotten going here in the second half. Karl Malone has cooled off, and they're going to have to come back through Karl Malone if they want to win this ball game. But yesterday, the Spurs took a long time before they finally got control of the ball game in the 4th quarter against the Trailblazers, and then had to go to OT to win it.
Duncan over Ostertag. Pretty shot. Antonio by 5.
Karl Malone has to answer right here. Get to the hoop, get to the foul line.
Here he is against Duncan, slipped it underneath to Anderson, and he hits. Karl Malone with the assist, somehow through the traffic to Anderson.
Steve, the way that Tim Duncan's got his offense going right now, I'm very surprised that the Jazz are so slow to come down and double team. Normally they don't like to double team, but Tim Duncan is in just such a zone right now offensively.
And San Antonio calls a timeout.
And you take a look at Tim Duncan, and you know why they believe that they got to go through this guy all the time, because he lives for the big moment. Karl Malone on the other side of the basket, fighting through a lot of traffic. They get a little dance to go in.
Welcome back to San Antonio. During that timeout, Mario Elie had some ethyl chloride applied to his right thigh. Got a massage from the trainer there. Here's what happened. He runs in full blast off this pick right there with Karl Malone having the ball. Right there you see it. Upper thigh, lower groin. And he is going to try and continue to play. Gentlemen, that's got to hurt.
Elie with 10 points. Trying to walk it off out on the court. That play, of course, resulted in the Malone pass to Shandon Anderson, who had rubbed off his defender, Elie, for the bucket.
It's a three-point lead, and the momentum right now is in favor of San Antonio, but this is a team that can go dead in the water, and they're going on a one-man offense right now with Tim Duncan. He misses. Jazz on the attack.
Well, where's the offense for Utah? Everything is broken plays. Everything is scrambled. John Stockton not able to get into any sort of rhythm whatsoever today.
But this is a three-point ball game, and you expect that if you can stay close as a visitor, you got a chance. And good defense by the San Antonio Spurs to bust that one up.
They took it away from Ostertag, and Jackson pulls up and got the roll. Friendly home rim. Jackson off the front rim and through. They double-teamed that last time when Malone had the ball with David Robinson. They got the ball to his man Ostertag, but he was too far into the basket.
Greg Popovich has been trying to get Sean Elliott into the game here. But Jaren Jackson
makes a
great defensive play here. Denies Greg Ostertag, who never could get his legs underneath him, and then comes down. The defense just runs away from him, and why not?
Had it all the way.
And then they take him out. What did he do wrong?
Sean Elliott is back. Stockton away to Ostertag. Blocked. Duncan and Robinson were both there. Here's Avery Johnson.
Those are the plays that they've got to get finishes from Greg Ostertag on. He was right at the rim, but with two hands and lost the ball on the way up. 10 on the shot clock for Avery Johnson. Slapped away, Karl Malone.
And Malone lost it out of bounds.
When we talked to Avery Johnson, who got his shot blocked that time by Big Karl, we asked him about outplaying John Stockton as he did in the playoffs last year. He said, Bill, that means nothing. The only thing that means anything is who wins these ball games, and Stockton has always beat me head-to-head. Send him home for the summer. I won't be happy or satisfied until we win this game, we win this series.
Tim Duncan right by Ostertag baseline for the jam. He's making a strong bid for that MVP award today. He's figured to be one of the leading candidates with Karl Malone and Alonzo Mourning. He's looked good, especially in the second half. Ostertag throws it out of bounds.
Now, this is what you call a little fire, a little emotion, you know.
And look at David Robinson coming right up the court with a huge smile. The bench going crazy for San Antonio.
But that's talent that lit that up.
Looked like a mosh pit in there.
Here's Duncan again, facing Ostertag. Fakes the drive, double team, half-heartedly comes, then retreats.
7 on the shot clock.
Knocked away from Duncan. Entry pass stolen. Stockton takes it the other way. Stockton leads to Malone, and he's fouled. Over the last 8 minutes, Tim Duncan has outscored Karl Malone 12-0.
Malone has not taken enough shots to get into this, and he's going to have to carry him the rest of the way. Tim Duncan doesn't get the call. That one goes against David Robinson. He's looking up and said, "You sure that's me?"
Well, maybe he's looking up to see it's 5 fouls.
That's a very big call. Now Popovich has the decision. Does he come with Malik Rose right now? No, they're changing the call. They're going to put it on Duncan.
Duncan's got 4.
So Robinson stays with 5, Tom? I mean with 4, excuse me.
Duncan now with 4 and Robinson still 4.
The way that Tim Duncan is going, maybe today you can lose Big Dave. Because Dave is not giving it to him at the offensive end.
But he's holding down the defense, and he takes so much pressure, Steve.
Malone short from the free throw.
Let's see who this foul is on as Stockton is down the lane. Initial contact was Tim Duncan. Referee's right on top of the call.
It's too late to try that now. You've already burned your bridges earlier in the game. Carl hits 1 of 2. His first point in the last 8 minutes.
6-point game, just under 5 minutes to play, and the Jazz have to stiffen defensively. Avery Johnson, nice drive.
And David Robinson wrapped up. He'll shoot a pair of free throws. Penetration by Avery Johnson made it happen.
Granted, there's a ton of time in this game as Avery Johnson just blowing by John Stockton, who has not done a good job today of denying penetration. But who can guard Avery Johnson? Steve, you used to be an awesome perimeter defensive player. Tell us what you do against a guy like Avery Johnson.
Get off him. That's what you do. You don't play up on him that close. I mean, he played him too close, and he was leaning left. He spun back to his right.
Johnson getting a high screen from Duncan. Ellie. They left him open.
Never back off the guy with the ball in shooting range. Mario Ellie, who does not have a jump shot. They just gave him his set shot.
It's an 8-point lead for the Spurs.
And Utah's in trouble here, Tom.
Well, what you don't like is the attitude that Utah is displaying in coming back. They get a 3-point attempt coming up for Karl Malone. A foul against David Robinson. This will be 5, but that was a nice lob and a finish. You know, when you're playing defense, you always got to stay with the guy that got the ball. He's the most dangerous player out there. They let Ellie go. Malone able to hold his position. Duncan and Robinson both come. Duncan.
Jim Gray was talking earlier on this afternoon about Greg Popovich's strategy of denying those lob-type plays as Duncan goes to the bench with 5 fouls.
And don't count the Jazz out as long as this man is still on the floor. The mailman gets the 3-point play, and it's a 5-point game. Duncan on the bench. Now who do they go to for offense?
I'd come to David Robinson right here. Get him down low and tell him to drive to the hoop and get to the foul line.
Malone is checking Robinson. Here's Avery Johnson. Kicks high, over and out of bounds.
Well, David Robinson has not been in any kind of offensive rhythm, so if you're going to get something going for him, it's going to have to be on the move. He doesn't like to play now with his back to the basket, trying to fight his way across the middle. As Duncan sits down, he has been the big hitter in the quarter and in the ball game for the Spurs.
How long do you leave Duncan out, Steve? There's only 3:45 left.
Well, it's a 5-point ball game, and I think that he's going to try to get another minute and a half out of him before he tries to come in and close the game if they still have the lead. Looking for Karl Malone against Malik Rose. 10 on the shot clock.
Here's Malone to Ostertag, and that one emphatically down from Greg Ostertag. He has 7 points, the assist to Malone.
Finally, Greg Ostertag able to deliver at the basket. He's been denied all day by Robinson, Duncan, and Malik Rose.
The lead is 3. Here is David Robinson driving Ostertag. Kicks it back outside. Ellie got himself open, and the runner goes down for his 14th point.
A lot of people scoffed when the Spurs picked up Mario Ellie, thinking Houston knew what they were doing and letting this ancient veteran go.
And Tim Duncan is ready to come back into the game as it goes to the low post, and Karl Malone guarded by Rose. To Ostertag again, and this one blocked by Robinson. Rejected by the Admiral, had his hand on top of the ball.
That is some imagination that Ostertag has got. I can tell you that, you know, when you're feeling good. You know, he's not a high jumper, he's a broad jumper, and then, you know, he's going to have to jump over people, and he thought he's going to reach back and slap that one down.
3 to shoot, 2 to shoot, 1, and they won't get it off. Shot clock violation, San Antonio. Some pretty tough defense by Utah caused it. And Tim Duncan will come back into the game when we return to the Alamo Dome. 2:15 left. It's a 78-73 game.
Championship moments. MVP on the line. Big players make big plays. Greg Ostertag goes for the monster dunk. Ready to deliver with the windmill. David Robinson.
He's in that stew of yours, too.
David Robinson taking it away, breaking the hearts of the Utah Jazz.
Malone missing over Robinson, who clears the rebound. Tim Duncan is back for San Antonio. Look for them to go to him again. The Jazz outscored the Spurs 5-2 while Duncan was on the bench.
Remember, yesterday they had a 5-point lead against Portland, and Portland came back to tie it up, so they know that they can get back in the game. They need good defensive pressure. Duncan with a miss.
And Malone clears for Utah.
They're allowing Duncan to turn to that baseline. The Jazz defensive strategy is to turn Duncan into the middle toward the hill.
Stockton fouled by Sean Elliott. 1:26 left in the game. San Antonio leading by 5 with Stockton at the free throw line.
Despite the 19 points by Kobe, the Sonics trying to get back in the ball game. Only a 6-point ball game at Seattle. Lakers ahead by 6, so a lot of excitement.
Stockton, a rare miss. Don't forget, next Saturday, 12 noon Eastern, the NBA playoffs begin on NBC. Showtime gets things going. Then a triple header. Then on Sunday at noon, Showtime starts off another NBA triple header. 6 playoff games next Saturday and Sunday here on NBC. Can't wait.
A basketball fan's dream. All day long, NBA.com.
There's that Stu again. Anything else you want to throw on there?
12 on the shot clock. The San Antonio Spurs taking a lot of time trying to use their clock, and this will help Utah. But a roller by Avery Johnson.
Avery Johnson with the roller. You should see the smile on Tim Duncan's face. He was grinning from ear to ear as A.J. rolled one in. It's a 6-point lead. Final minute. Malone. And David Robinson with a push in the back.
They have not defended the pick and roll well all day. The San Antonio Spurs know that Greg Ostertag is late stepping out to defend that pick and roll. Avery Johnson had whatever he wanted coming off, because Ostertag was a step behind the play.
The Admiral just committing his 5th foul, puts Malone at the line where he's hit 6 of 7. He has 20 points in the game. Carl telling us that those crucial misses in the finals against Chicago, he thinks about them every time he goes to the line in a crucial situation, and he says, not often you get a second chance. I remind myself of that. It helps me concentrate and focus at the free throw line. He shoots before every game, and he won't go back in till he makes 30 in a row. He has improved his free throw shooting dramatically during his career, and his 2 make it a 4-point game.
Well, they've got a foul to give, and they're really trying to tiger the ball. They stop the clock now. 11 was on the shot clock, 41-7. Now they got to come back and play good defense, hope for a miss, and come back with a quick score.
That was their foul to give. It's Stockton's 5th.
They had to give that foul up so that they can stop it immediately and get the ball back.
And I don't know, you had 11 seconds on the shot clock. If you're San Antonio right now, you use all of 24. Just try to pass it around, and you've got to keep the pressure on them to make good decisions. Delly's trying to hold it, hoping he's going to get fouled.
And he does. With 31.4 seconds left in the game.
Well, they had the ball, San Antonio, in the right guy's hands. Mario Elliott, terrific clutch performer, very solid stroke.
And an 85% free throw shooter. 100% today. The Spurs trying to take 2 of 3 from the Jazz as Ellie misses on the season and keep alive their chance for the best record in the NBA, denying the Jazz that clinching victory today. And timeout Utah with 31.4 seconds. The San Antonio Spurs leading the Jazz 81-76. You're watching the NBA on NBC. Here's what we're playing for. Best records in the NBA. Utah holds that distinction right now at 36-12. They win today. They've got the best record in the NBA because they have only one game remaining. San Antonio must win today and then their final 2 games. The Jazz play the Clippers in Salt Lake City on Tuesday, while the Spurs have a tough road at the Blazers and finish at the Warriors.
And the Blazers with a lot of tough games, hosting the Spurs, and then at the Lakers, the resurgent Lakers on Wednesday night. The game's the season's final game.
Well, they're trying to go for a quick 2. John Stockton on the drive.
To Karl Malone, who lays it in. Stockton to Malone. It's a 3-point game.
You got to foul. If you don't get the steal immediately, you got to foul right away.
In danger of getting the 5-second call. Duncan finally got it into Elliott, and he's immediately fouled.
Well, this game smells a lot like the one we did yesterday for Portland, in that Portland was down 5 with 28.4 seconds to go. They gambled. They came out and hit a 3. Then they played the foul game, were able to get it into overtime, as Karl Malone is now talking to Sean Elliott. Give me something, Sean Elliott.
Something he learned from Scottie Pippen when Scottie Pippen told Karl that the post office is closed on Sunday. Karl Malone being warned by the officials to leave little Sean alone.
Little Sean.
Little Sean.
Little Sean.
Just hit for his 13th point. Only his 2nd point of the second half. Got those free throws. Clutch free throw shooting by little Sean Elliott. And with 22.3 seconds left, the Spurs build a 5-point lead.
The strategy stays the same for Utah. As Jim Gray told us out of the last time out, go to the hoop, get that quick 2. It's got to become a foul shooting situation. But as long as San Antonio keeps making their free throws like Sean Elliott did, then they're in the driver's seat.
And coming up later on NBC.
Tonight at 9, 8 Central, it's the epic event of May, Noah's Ark.
Is it the end?
Noah's Ark, tonight on NBC.
Just part of an incredible month of May coming up on NBC. A month of May that will include plenty of NBA on NBC playoff action, starting with that 6-game weekend next Saturday and Sunday. Is Saturday a weekday or a weekend day?
Saturday is a weekend day. It's not a day of the week.
I want to clarify that because that is when our NBA playoffs begin. A triple-header Saturday and a triple-header Sunday.
Seattle coming all the way back. But David Robinson's performance here. Yesterday, 44 minutes, 26 points. Today, playing in incredible pain. That back so sore for David. 38 minutes, 9 points, but 13 rebounds and 3 blocks for the Admiral.
And here's today's point parade. In the MVP battle, Tim Duncan has outscored Karl Malone by only 2, 26-24. And let's go into Jim Gray, who's been listening into the huddles. Jim?
Well, Jerry Sloan has the exact same strategy. He said, go to the basket, guys, try and get an easy bucket, try and draw a foul. He says we have 1 timeout and a 20. That's 2 timeouts left. Put them back on the foul line, foul them right away if we make the basket. Tom?
All right, Jim. And the battle of potential MVP is just about a dead heat. Malone, 24 points, 13 rebounds. Duncan, 26 points, also 13 rebounds and 4 block shots.
And what the Jazz will try to do is strike quickly. They can't afford to take a lot of time. Stockton
couldn't get it down. Rebounded by Duncan. Johnson is fouled before he can get the pass to Elliott.
And look at the smile on David Robinson's face. Congratulating everybody.
And Tim Duncan, too, the normally placid, as you said, unemotional front line. The Twin Towers showing some emotion in this, what would apparently be a big victory today with 13.5 seconds left. They lead it by 5. Johnson at the line. It was a tough assignment for the Spurs to play the Trailblazers yesterday and the Jazz today, back-to-back. 2 of the 3 best records in the NBA, and they're on the verge of pulling it off.
The way they came out and pushed themselves through the early fatigue and pain, something that the Jazz were not able to do. Jazz coming in completely rested, no practice yesterday, last game Friday night. The inability to finish at the basket area, the inability to make jumpers, and David Robinson, just an incredible moment here in his brilliant career.
The Jazz got to go for a quick three, and they're trying to find Thurl Bailey. That's ball game.
John Elliott, Mario Elie. That won't count, and it won't matter. The San Antonio Spurs have defeated the Utah Jazz. San Antonio trailed by 4 after 3 quarters. They started the 4th quarter on a 15-4 run behind Tim Duncan and took the lead for good. And a crowd of over 35,000, the largest in the NBA this season, is in celebration mode. And Jim Gray is with Tim Duncan.
All right, thank you very much, Tim. They're chanting MVP, MVP. Is this the biggest game of your career, and what caused the team to respond so well after shooting just 29% in the first half?
We knew we didn't play our best basketball in the first half. We came out in the second half, kept our defense the same, and knew our shots were going to fall for us.
Are you MVP?
That's not up to me. I hope so, but that's not up to me.
Tim, congratulations. We'll see you in the playoffs.
Thank you.
All right, back over to you, Tom.
Thanks, Jim. Huge win for the San Antonio Spurs as they beat the Jazz 84-78. Tonight on NBC, starting at 7 Eastern Time, the world's most dangerous magic, followed by Dateline. Then at 9, the epic event of May, mankind's greatest adventure, Noah's Ark. The San Antonio Spurs behind Tim Duncan beating Utah today. For Steve Jones, Bill Walton, and Jim Gray, this is Tom Hammond saying so long from San Antonio. You've been watching the NBA on NBC.